All right, Vikings fans, we're a couple of days in front of the 2019 NFL Draft. We have the general manager with us right now. We yanked him out of their final draft meetings to see what he'll share with us, although I don't think you're going to share any of the secrets, but we'll do our best. I want to butter you up, though, nice and easy, because I either want to find out who we're picking or I want to have that jacket. That's a nice jacket. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. It's a Hammer-made.
Okay, very good. I like Hammer-made. I got some Hammer-made stuff. All the stuff that you throw away and don't want anymore, they hand down to the rest of us. Hammer-made's good stuff. All right, the draft's coming up in a matter of hours by the time some people watch this. So, you know, we know the process and the months and sometimes years leading up to a draft, what all goes into it. But like 2 or 3 days before the draft, what are you guys doing?
We're actually just going through it with a fine-tooth comb right now. We've been through our process the last 2 weeks with the coaches and the scouts in there. We actually met with the scouts one more time. We worked through the weekend. I did give everybody Easter Sunday off.
Oh, that was nice of you, yeah.
But just rewatching the tape, making sure, going through scenarios that we may be facing in each round, especially in the first 3 rounds. After we went through that, we brought the coaches back in, and we're going through that one more time with them just to finalize everything. We're also making sure we're covering everything that we need to from a medical standpoint, from a character standpoint. And we go through the process numerous times where when it comes on draft day, it's pretty much everybody knows the answers and what this player's about, what are his holes, his weaknesses, are there any character concerns, are there any medical concerns, anything that we need to know about. So it's not like you're shuffling through the books or anything like that. It's pretty much we're prepared and ready to go.
Yeah, you want to, when you're on the clock, have as few variables as possible. But I also know from experience and talking to you and from your experience doing this, that invariably something will happen or change and you need to be able to respond to that, right? So you have to balance that.
We on the clock?
Yes.
Yeah, we always try to go through scenarios that potentially, what is the worst thing that could possibly happen to us? If we stay at 18 or players that aren't there that we don't like, we can't trade out, what are we going to do then? And if you can put yourself in those type of scenarios, then you don't panic on draft day. Everybody understands, okay, this is what we're dealing with, and this is our plan A to go forward with this, particular situation. So we do a lot of rehearsals and go through a lot of different scenarios to make sure we're prepared. Although draft can be so unpredictable once it starts.
So in a way, mock drafts are a craze for fans, right? They like to go online or watch shows on NFL Network of people going through their first round mock drafts, predicting who's going to take what. But you guys sort of do your own version of a mock draft. You're practicing these scenarios, right? Essentially,
we're really honing in and focusing on guys that I believe will be there at the 18th pick, including trades. And what will we do if someone offered us this or this? Then we start studying, and we'll continue to do that up through the draft on who's behind us. If we do move back, what's the potential of losing the players we have already lined up? Do we have other options? If, a player is there and that's our only option at 18, we're more than likely not going to trade back. We're going to take that player. If there's 3 or 4 guys that we do like, that we would be happy with any one of those 3 or 4 players, then potentially we'll move back. But you also have to understand what those teams are going to do as well.
Yeah, you have to have knowledge not just of the players in the draft, but your other teams.
And that's, as we go through the process, even on Friday and Saturday, we're tracking team needs. And if they filled a team need on the first day and the second and third day, so when we get into Saturday, okay, all of a sudden, we have a different set of needs that they may be looking at. So that can give you a predictor on whether you have to move up or down.
Yeah, and that's kind of really been an interesting part of when they moved the first round to Thursday night and then put the second and third round on Friday. That's created a new dynamic for you guys on Thursday night into Friday morning. Your discussions that happen because now you have, almost 24 hours until the second round starts.
Yeah, and I think an example of that was we never probably would have predicted that Dalvin Cook would have fell out of the first round.
Why are we showing the Vikings War Room presented by Honda? Because they moved up to take 41st overall pick.
We talked about it Thursday night. Friday we came back in and kind of reassess where we were with everything. We're going to make this trade right now and turn it in. You good to go? Okay. All right, I'm going to put the coaches on with you here, but congratulations, you're a Minnesota Viking. And then fortunately, we were able to move up to get Dalvin that year.
Yeah. I know you just had Kelly Klein in, and you're one of your coordinators, and you were talking about all the people that are involved in this process for you. And I know that you're the GM and you're sort of the face of it, but I know you're also a team guy, and you have a lot of people working for you, helping out, supporting the team. Talk about that process a little bit and your staff.
Yeah, no, we have an incredible staff, and I truly believe it's a team effort, and that's the only way you can be successful. And that's coaches and scouts working together through this process, evaluating the players, and then you start layering in all the other things. You're layering in the analytics and how they're weighing into the decisions. You're weighing in Eric Sugarman and the medical staff. You're weighing in the psychological testing, the intelligence scores. So there's so many people and so many different hands that are a part of this process. And I'm a big believer in almost over communicating and over grabbing as much information as you can and trying to process through all that. And hopefully that's, has boded well for us to make good decisions.
So how would you characterize this class of players? I would imagine every year sort of has its own identity.
Probably, I know when we went through the board, this is the highest amount of players we had that we felt were draftable this year. Okay. We feel it's a very deep class in a lot of areas, and a lot of times the scenario we'll talk about, well, if we take this position and then we come back and swing at this position in the second round, as long as we're following our board and our values, we may take one position because behind that player, there's no depth. Right. That's where it falls off. Where if you look at that other position, well, let's pass because we got 5 more names coming up behind them that we may get a swing at the next round. So not only you're weighing in what you think of them as players, but also the depth at each position in the draft.
But that's an example of how something can change in the middle of the draft. So this cluster of players, you've prioritized them one way, but the way the draft fell, this depth at this position went away, so you maybe had to adjust.
It seems like it's always some kind of run on a position. I remember last year, right before we picked, they had a run on the offensive lineman. The year before, it wasn't. So every year there's a different run on different positions, and as that happens, you're reacting in real time on your decision process.
I know Vikings fans paying a lot of attention to in the trenches, offensive line, defensive line. A lot of people believe that's where football games are won and lost. How do you feel about the talent and the depth at those two position groups, O-line and D-line?
I think they're both very strong in this draft. I think you're going to get a lot of quality players that are going to be in that Friday as well. They can come in and, as we discussed, have some kind of impact for our roster. I think even when we get into Saturday, there are a few of those guys. Because of the depth of those positions, there may be a guy or two that falls into the Saturday realm as well that we feel are very good players.
Talk about what that's like here in the building on draft day, the hours leading up to it, and then once things get going.
Pretty much by Thursday, everybody comes in a little later. Everybody has their own traditions and routines that they do.
I can't imagine you would have any. You're not superstitious at all. Yeah, right.
There's not a lot of discussions going on. The phones may start acting up a little bit in the afternoon on potential trades, guys wanting to move up and down. More likely, those are the teams that are in the top of that first round that may have a little bit more activity on the phones. And then you just sit and you're as prepared as you can be, and then you just wait and everybody else, watch what happens.
Like different, the GMs and the people at different teams, and they all probably have different personalities. This is like, oh, that guy's calling again. That guy's, he's always trying to trade and move up and down. Or what do you think they say about you? Oh, there's Spielman again. Spielman Brzezinski again.
I hope they like me. No, it's a very close-knit group because there's only 32 of us, and that you have to get along with everybody because you're going to have to do business with them at some point.
Yeah. When the draft's over, people turn off their TVs and don't pay attention, but you guys, that's kind of a busy time for you guys. The draft's over, but the post-draft process is
Saturday?
Also really busy.
You're talking about Saturday? Yeah, Saturday is when it's a frenzy on signing the college free agents. And that's probably 2 hours of organized chaos. We have 12 different negotiating teams working. We have specific number of players that we need at each position. We've already have guys that we have targeted if they're not drafted that we want to go after. The ownership has given us the resources and some of the creativity we have came up from a contract standpoint have really benefited us from signing those top college free agents. I think we had 7 of them make our roster over the last couple of years. So that's as much time as we put into the draft, we put just as much time, and that's what we're actually doing over these last couple of days is going back through that backboard one more time and making sure we have the guys targeted we want. Some of those guys were here on the top 30 visits. I know our coaches have been working the phones and creating relationships with those players, so it's not like the first time they hear from the Minnesota Vikings is the day after the night of the draft when the draft's over. So we put a big point of emphasis on that part of the process as well.
Last question I had, I always am curious to hear what this is like for you with Mark and Ziggy and Lenny, and their curiosity and interest and their support of you and your staff. I know that you really value that.
They are very passionate.
Yeah.
They are very supportive. They let us do our jobs. I know I've been on numerous calls over the past couple of weeks with them, just talking them through the process, talking to them about some of the players that we are keying in on, having them in there to show the support and to see the process and how the process works is very important for our staff, for our coaches, for our organization.
You excited?
Always. This is the greatest time of the year, besides Sundays on game day.
All righty. Well, thanks for your time and good luck.
Thanks for having me on.